Today I give The Sixth Sense the third degree. Hello and welcome to RotD Review of the Day, and it is Netflix Tuesday, which means the movie that I select to review will be available on Netflix streaming, and today it is 1999's classic, The Sixth Sense. The freshman film from M. Night Shyamalan that blew audiences away and destroyed the box office overall. This really was a big game changer in the world of movies in general, as well as a genre changer in the realm of horror films specifically. Now, I will say that despite the statute of limitations being firmly up, as always, my reviews will be spoiler-free. So, the lauded ending will not be discussed in this review, but rather, I actually think that the ending is focused on so much that the rest of the film tends to go unmentioned, and it's a shame because it is a beautiful, heartbreaking movie that is very well crafted. But to get into more details than that, I'm going to have to get into the categories. As always, 4 different categories, each one worth up to 25 points for a total possible score of 100 points. The plot of this one, if you aren't familiar with it, follows the character of Cole Sear, played by Haley Joel Osment, who is living with his mother in a small apartment, and he is seeing a child therapist. He is undergoing some things, some internal things, that is causing issues, causing outbursts, and preventing him from having friends. And the child psychologist that is seeing him is Bruce Willis, playing Malcolm Crowe. And Cole and Malcolm develop a relationship, eventually leading to the point where Cole finally confides in Malcolm and says the iconic line of, "I see dead people." And that's ultimately where his problems mostly, not all, but mostly stem from, is that on his daily interactions with life, he will go through hallways and streets and so forth, even his own apartment, and dead people will be there, not necessarily knowing this, their own status of being dead, but just interacting with him or wanting to show him something, or just saying hi, or even being a bit more aggressive than that. And the imagery itself of seeing this teenager standing in your own apartment's hallway with the back of his head blown off by presumably the remnants of a shotgun blast, it's not a pretty thing. So Cole is basically going through daily life very afraid, and Malcolm is having his own troubles in the form of not being able to help children in the past, coming back to bite him pretty darned hard, and thinking that perhaps he can find redemption in the potential ability to help Cole, as well as a pretty big divide within the structure of his own marriage, that he and his wife barely talk, and the relationship seems strained almost to the breaking point. So you have these two very difficult and flawed characters try to form this relationship to ultimately help Cole, and with the side effect of potentially, possibly helping Malcolm as well. And I'm not really going to get into any more than that. Suffice it to say, this was a very richly detailed movie. The plot, as it's written, I thought was actually pretty darn perfect. This managed to develop very rich, very full characters, while also having a very massive handicap in how much information that it was able to deliver, especially on the outset. The ending of this movie is of such that the level of information had to be very carefully selected as far as what to show the audience, what to introduce to the characters, what elements of the characters to introduce to the screen. And the plot was very, very tightly controlled, and the art really came through with this one. I gave it a score of 23 out of 25. The Intention, I gave a 21 out of 25. The first time I saw this movie, I was absolutely just blown away, as were a lot of people. But repeated viewings really show how well crafted this film is overall. And this is, I think, one of the key elements to it is when after the only thing I'll say about the ending is that it is a twist. And obviously, if you've ever heard of The Sixth Sense, even if you don't know what the ending is, if you're one of those rare few, you at least know that it does have a twist ending to it. And what I will say is that this movie was crafted not just in service of the ending. And after it came out and twist endings became all the rage, that's what we wound up finding is people that didn't put the care into their screenplays and the crafting of the film. The movie seemed to be in service of the ending, and it forgot to tell a rich storyline with well-developed characters. And this movie did not fall into that trap. It did work as an entire movie, not just for the ending. And that was one of the things that I really, really love about it. The tone of this movie I really liked as well. This was not loud or brash. This was very simple and quiet and subdued. One of the things that I really like about M. Night Shyamalan is his pacing. And I know that frustrates a lot of people, especially with the Unbreakable, but I think that has garnered enough appreciation over time that the slow pacing of that has kind of redeemed itself. But when he is able to take his time and slow things down and really tell a genuinely good emotional story without being rushed, I think that the film benefits from that a great deal, and this is one of the prime examples of it. The acting I gave a 22 out of 25. I thought everybody in this movie was absolutely exceptional. Bruce Willis as Malcolm Crowe was fantastic, and I think this really shows the difference between the Bruce Willis that is earning a paycheck or is under contractual obligation and the Bruce Willis that actually cares about the project. I don't want to say anything necessarily negative about him as an actor, but I think that it really does kind of show when he is phoning it in. He's not afraid to simply say his lines, walk off the set, and go home for the day. But when he actually cares about a project, it really does shine through, and I think this is an example of when that happened. Haley Joel Osment as Cole Sear was amazing for his one of his first inaugural films, being able to not just sell the performance as a tormented child, but also sell the performance as a child. So often films that have children that are under spells or influences or extraordinary circumstances, they're sullen, they're one note, and they're beyond sophisticated for their age, and they forget, at least during the writing process, but also during the direction and acting process, that at their heart, they are children. They're going to behave as children. They're going to get excited as children. And that really came through. Haley Joel Osment sold both levels, or many, many levels of the character extraordinarily well. And the last performance that I really want to highlight is one that often goes overlooked. When people talk about this film, so often so rarely do I hear about Toni Collette's performance as Cole's mother of Lynn Sear. Her performance in this one, and I mean, it's really not terribly, a terrible surprise that Toni Collette is, turning in amazing performances, but her role as the mother that wants to make things better, that sees her child in this invisible torment. He's not opening up. He's not revealing to her what's going on. She sees him in a state of distress and is unable to help, and it comes through with every element of her performance, even to the point of lashing out at him in certain moments of just absolute impotence and frustration. It breaks the heart, and it's just such a fantastic character, and one that is played so well by Toni Collette. Really, really loved all the acting all around in this film. The technical, I gave a 24 out of 25. The practical effects in this one were really good. Makeup and so forth were really good. There wasn't a whole ton of blood and gore. What they did have was pretty visceral, but it wasn't excessive. But really, the score of the technical comes more down to the editing and the post-production. This movie is so reliant on everything being just so. The finer details, the edits being just right. This had a few good jump scare moments in it, and I always say that jump scares come down to editing, getting the timing of the cuts just right, and the sound design and the post-production, things like that. And this really did that well, but also, in order to deliver the twist ending, it had to be this massive collaboration between writing, directing, and editing. And the technical, I was blown away by that they wound up having such an intricate film unfold so majestically that by the end of it, it was not just a movie, it was an actual experience. And that gives us a total of 90 out of 100 points. I really do love this movie. This is a must watch for any film lover at all, much less a horror film lover. Some really great moments without being overly gruesome, I think makes this, as a horror film, fairly accessible to people that might not necessarily like the genre. I think that this will be something that you can put on the plate in front of them and that they will consume happily. But that should about do it. That's my review of 1999's The Sixth Sense. I really thank you for joining me here today. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And remember, next time you want to watch a horror movie, first make sure that it's good and rotted.